You've got questions, I've got answers, and in celebration of hitting 15,000 subscribers on this channel, we're doing a 15K Q&A. In my head, I think I always feel as though anybody who watches any one video of mine knows everything that I've ever said in any video that I've ever posted, and obviously that is not true. So my hope with this is that you can get to know me a little bit better, things that you're curious about can get answered, and also I just love talking. Coming from somebody who routinely sits in an empty room and yaps to a camera, I guess that should come as no surprise. But this will just be a fun chatty video, and I feel like it's been a little bit since we've done one of these. So personally, I'm very excited. I took all of your questions and randomized the order. So I think we'll just go until I get tired, if that sounds good with you. Would you ever consider stepping back into the classroom, either to teach baby social work students or to further your own education? To further my own education, no, because there's not really anything else I need education-wise. I'm not interested in a PhD, and there wouldn't be much benefit to me at this point. Also, I'm not really interested in a DSW, and there wouldn't be that much benefit to me. Also, I just love being done with school. It's a really great thing. Not having homework in classes. I liked school while I was in it, but I don't at this point see myself returning back to school for any reason. Teaching baby social workers I think would be so fun, and I feel like my strengths match with that. Like, I enjoy teaching and I enjoy explaining concepts and like using my experience to help others. So while I don't see that in the near immediate future, I do think there's a pathway of the future in which I would be teaching in some sense. I don't know when, where, or at what point I would feel ready to do that, but it's not off the table. It's not happening anytime soon. Do you love living in Atlanta, and can you see yourself settling down there? What are some of your favorite things about living in Atlanta? I do love living in Atlanta. It's grown on me, not that I didn't like it to begin with, I just didn't know it to begin with. I feel like with Atlanta, every year that I've lived here and gotten to know it better and gotten to know the areas better, I just like it more and more. I could see myself settling down here as in like buying a home, staying for forever. However, in the next several years, whenever husband Zach finishes his PhD, his job market and like where he ends up getting a job, we're not really like settling down anywhere until he's out of school because his future job opportunities could make us move. This is a channel throwback, how I said I always feel like everybody knows everything I've ever said ever. Whenever I first moved to Atlanta was right after I graduated undergrad, and it was in 2021, and I did my year of grad school here, and Zach was in his senior year of undergrad. So after I lived in Atlanta 1 year, then Zach graduated. He took a gap year with the intent to apply to medical school after that. So in my first year in Atlanta, I was thinking but not positive that I would stay at least another year, and then the second year in Atlanta, I was pretty positive that we would be moving at the end of that year, because with med school you kind of just go wherever it is. So at that time on my channel I would talk a lot about like, I don't even know if I'll live in Atlanta after this amount of time. Like, a move was kind of always on the horizon. But then Zach ended up not going to medical school and instead getting a PhD, which is a much longer program and was in Atlanta. So then at that time we knew like, okay, we're gonna be here for the amount of time that Zach gets his PhD in, which is a bigger chunk of time but isn't like indefinite. And where we go after that, like I said, will just depend on Zach's career options, which very well could be in Atlanta or very well could not be in Atlanta. So I love living here. I'm so glad we're here now. I could definitely picture myself and would love, I think, to live here for a long amount of time, but I don't know yet at this point if that'll be true or not. And also at this point, like, I still feel flexible. If we do end up moving out of Atlanta, I will feel sad. I will probably cry, because I mean, this is the longest that I've ever lived anywhere other than my hometown that I grew up in for 18 years. And some of my favorite things about living in Atlanta, I love the culture of Atlanta. I love the people of Atlanta. I love the food in Atlanta, the restaurants in Atlanta. I love the people that I just like personally know in Atlanta. I like the people around me in Atlanta. I feel like there's a good mix of like fun things to do while also being near outdoors, while also it's big enough to feel like a big city, because it is, but it's not like humongous. It's a city of trees, so you can be inside the city and things feel more suburban than I think other metropolitan areas do. I have always lived in places that feel like neighborhood, they don't feel like urban, and I've always lived within Atlanta city limits. I like how close we are to the Atlanta airport. That's very convenient to be able to just like fly. I love how diverse Atlanta is. I love that it's not majority white people. I love the amount of immigrants and refugees that are in Atlanta. There are so many different people from all around the world that call Atlanta their home, and I think that shows in the culture of the city. I love the South. I love how grassroots Atlanta is. I love the history that is seeped into Atlanta. Even things just like Martin Luther King Jr.'s home, Ebenezer Baptist Church. What is your advice for social work undergrad students, and has it changed since you've made videos about it? It probably has changed. I think something that is nice, even though it does not feel true when you're in school, is that there does come a point where your school experience feels so less huge in your life. Like the first, I feel like I'm just getting out of it. Like at least the first two, probably the first 3 years after being in school, I feel like at least at some point every day on the job, you're connecting things back to like what you learned in school, and you're thinking about school, or you're like reflecting on that you're now working and we're just in school. Like everything is like coming from school. And now I'm at a point where school feels like distant ago, which whenever people would say that, whenever whenever I was in school. I was like, you oldies. What are you talking about? All that to say, something that I always think about whenever I'm thinking of school and advice in school mostly comes with field placements. And I get people asking me like, how do you get a field placement that you want? People ask a lot if I had like medical experience from field placements. And something that I always thought in school and I'm doubling down on now is that your field placement is valuable no matter where it is, because you can learn how to be a social worker, even if it's not in the setting that you eventually want to end up in. Because honestly, the setting that right now you think you want to end up in, you'll probably change your mind. And you might even like have a field placement in that setting, and then while you're there realize you want something different. Or you might have a field placement in a setting that you never thought you'd want to work in, and then you really start to fall in love with it. And I think the field of social work is so broad, but people can go into it thinking like, oh, I want to work exactly here. And so my advice would be to not lock yourself down in that way or close your mind to opportunities. Because for example, my master's field placement was in the juvenile justice system. Never once had that ever occurred to me to be somewhere that I would want to work, but then I did my field placement and I loved it, and that was my first job post-grad too. And I still like love it. It had its issues, but like as experience and in informing me as a social worker, it was incredible. It was wonderful. I would have never picked it for myself, but it was absolutely the best thing for me. So I feel like that's my advice that I don't think has changed. It's just like being open-minded and focusing on learning how to become a social worker without locking yourself into like one area that you for sure only want to be in. Now, obviously that's different for different people, because some people truly do have like such specific passions, and it would be incredible for you to work in that area. But I think even with like the field placement that you end up in, there's ways to learn how to do tasks that are in that specific field of work, that area. And there's ways to learn how to be a social worker that you're learning in that specific area of the field, but that can be expanded to no matter where you go. For example, trying to think of a good example. Helping a parent fill out FMLA paperwork is a task that I do right now. But being the social worker part of that is being able to meet a parent, engage with them, establish rapport, assess for their needs, provide support, all along while identifying and then completing this task that they need me to do. Answering questions that come up, providing information, circling back, being thorough. Those are things that are like how to be a good social worker that are beyond the literal task that you're doing. So I guess that advice really hasn't changed. I honestly feel like I knew more when I was closer to being just out of school, so those videos probably are still very relevant and are probably more helpful than anything that I would say now, since I feel far removed. I'm curious about your job. Is it just you that is having increased workload? Is your department understaffed, or were they not transparent with what would eventually be expected of you? This is relating to the recent videos I've done about like burnout and having a harder season than I sometimes have. And I feel like there's probably themes of being a working person that all play into this. Is it just you that is having an increased workload? I feel like disproportionately yes. Maybe other people feel that way too. I think something that can come up if you are a good worker where you are working is that people will come to you for things. And then if you care about what you do and want to do a good job, you will do your best to meet the needs of what people are needing from you. And I think when that happens repetitively, it just adds more and more on your plate, which kind of has happened to me as far as just like involvement in committees, involvement in projects, involvement in quality improvement, being approachable so that if people need something and they don't know who to approach, they can approach me. Those are all great things. All together, things like that do start to add up to where it just becomes a lot on a plate. There are also ways that we currently split patients into caseloads that I started collecting some data and I think maybe need to be revamped so that things are more fairer. And these are kind of the things I was talking about where in some of the videos where I talked about burnout and job disappointment and like those types of things, watering the garden that I'm in, I was saying like I can just make it work, and I have just been making it work, but just making it work is how then I just reached the point of burnout, because that's not sustainable. And so doing things like collecting data and seeing if things are unfair and if they can be made more fair, that is more conducive to sustainable change. That would help me be sustainable. Is your department understaffed? No, like there's always some sort of vacancy in some area that people help cover. Kind of, not really. There's one for me right now. It's kind of complex. There's just a lot of patients, to be honest, and getting more social workers to help with increased patients is a very long process. So that's when it kind of just becomes current social workers can be a band-aid while the longer change is being worked out, which is good because longer, more sustainable change is being worked out, but also being a band-aid can lead to burnout. And these are things that I feel comfortable and I do talk about with like the people above me. Were they not transparent with what would eventually be expected of you? I would not say that that's the case for me. I know that's the case for some people in some jobs. My job's just changed a lot. Like a whole lot has changed since I began. Whole settings changed. We're in a whole different building. We've expanded in a big way, and like the department has expanded with that too, but there's just been a lot of change, and I would like a status quo. I would really love a status quo. I remember there used to be a status quo, I feel like. So they're transparent with me, but just like things have changed, and then all of the things I've talked about all together led to me feeling very tired for a while. I really am doing better now though. New perspective, new energy, self-advocacy, all that's kind of stirring together into a better situation. What are things you're looking forward to this year? I am looking forward to going to Spain in a week. The day that this video posts, I will be landing in Spain. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, it is at a.bea.s. If I were to make my Instagram be something more like Anna B, you may be able to find me more easily. However, I've had that username since 2015, so not gonna change. My Instagram I have reverted to completely just using as like a personal Instagram account that you're so more than welcome to follow me on, but that's where posts about Spain will be getting posted and stories, so go over there if you'd like to see those more in real time. That I'm looking forward to. I have a bachelorette trip for one of my best friends coming up at the end of March that I am excited for, and then her wedding is coming up in April, which I am excited for. Sometime in May, I plan to visit my nephew, who is going to be 18 months at that point, which is crazy, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to camp this year again, so I'm looking forward to that. Sometime in July, a lot of my extended family is getting together on a lake, so I'll get to see a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to that. I think it's kind of a dead zone after that. We have another wedding in September. That'll be fun. I'll look forward to that. Maybe we'll have another trip planned in there somewhere. I feel like for a while I had no idea what was happening in 2026, and now pieces have started to fall into place a little bit more, and so all of those things I am looking forward to. Any tips for people interested in social work? Selfishly, self-promo, watch a lot of my videos throughout the years. Like, don't just stay in this year and this most recent, because I have been a student. I've been an undergrad student. I've been a grad student. I've been a post-grad job search. I have been in the juvenile justice system, another job search, and then now my current position as medical social worker. And I have made numerous videos, some covering field placements, some covering social work careers, some covering reasons I love social work, some covering different theories and processes. And I put all the information like this out there, and I share myself publicly on the internet to try to help people who may be interested in this, because I remember whenever I was entering grad school, I really wanted to see more social work content. I wanted to see what a day in the life of a social worker could look like. I wanted to see what a day in the life in grad school could look like. I wanted to hear more people talking about it, and at that time on YouTube, there weren't that many people. There was Social Work Scrapbook, love her, but there weren't that many people making videos like that, and so I really tried to build up a good collection of just like things that can be helpful for people, because I think social work is great, and I think it can be great for some people. It's obviously not the profession for every single person, but if you're interested in it, I think just learning more about it and seeing if your interest grows can be a great thing to do, because if you're interested, then I think you should pursue it, or at least find out information to see if you would still like to pursue it. Did you have a special topic or research type project as a culminating experience wrapping up your MSW? If not, did you have a special interest then, and how has it changed since? I did not have a special topic or research project at the end of my MSW. My program just wasn't set up like that. There was a capstone project that they were beginning whenever I was an undergrad, that if you were part of the like honors program, you would do a capstone, but it was like becoming a thing as I was there, so I didn't end up doing a capstone. It was kind of funny. They like had me create an idea for it and say like what I would do but then not actually do it. So that was a little bit funny. I would say though, in school, my special interests were a lot on like school and education and people's access to school. Also on immigration for a while, like human trafficking, but mostly education. Like a lot of projects that I did in grad school were talking about immigrant access to education. Now that I think about it, I can't even think what my project, my capstone project in undergrad was going to be. I feel like it had something to do with human trafficking though. My MSW was entirely like class focused. There wasn't anything that really like tied a string through it all. But in how has it changed since? Education is just like not as big of a focus in my current role. I like to pull it in whenever I can, because I feel like I still am interested in that, but I would think that more special interests now are like congenital heart disease, since that's where I work. Seeing how different socioeconomic factors affect outcomes in congenital heart disease and affect continuity of care. Looking into issues that affect kids with congenital heart disease as they grow up, because a lot of research on that is developing. I would say that's what what my more special interest is now, since it's the niche in which I work. Do you have any rituals to make sure you and your husband are spending enough quality time together while both having such busy schedules? Something that's good is that we both really like spending time together, so it is something that is like a mutual priority, I would say, for both of us. It honestly is easier now because with Zach's PhD, for the most part, he follows business hours. Sometimes he'll have like an occasional weekend thing, but that is nice because whenever we were in grad school and undergrad, it was a lot harder. Something that we do often though is even when we're doing different activities while we're at home, we'll often be near each other while doing so. Like it is so common that we'll be on the couch and like I'll be reading my book or I'll be editing a video and Zach will be like gaming next to me, to where we're not interacting necessarily, but we're doing parallel play, which still I feel like is bonding and makes it feel like we're living life together even when we are doing like our individual activities. We go and work out together in the morning, which is, it's become a better hangout time. In the beginning, whenever I was getting used to waking up at 5 a.m., that was not as fun of a hangout time. Per him, I had a great time. Now I'm a lot more used to waking up that early and I think Zach enjoys himself more because of it. But that's a habit of ours that we share, or like a priority, a goal of ours that we share is lifting and like being in the gym, and so we get to do it together, which I feel really lucky for. There are also times where we get to commute together, which is fun because it's just additional time together in the day. I do sometimes feel like preemptively, not sad, but like sometimes I think, am I gonna look back on these days and be like, oh, we had it so nice then? Because I remember one time, we don't anymore, but there was one time whenever we worked close enough together that Zach and I could get lunch together, and one of my older coworkers was like, oh, I'm lucky if I like get to see my wife in a day, because they like have different kids and are going different directions and work different schedules. And I always just think like, am I gonna one day look back at now and like miss it and be like, oh, we were actually able to see each other then? And I hope not, because I hope that things can always be like this where we just get to spend time together. But I think we're just in a unique time of life where we do get to spend a lot of time together and there's not too much pulling us in opposite directions, which is just lovely. It was much harder when I was in grad school, where I had a field placement during the day and then I had classes at night and work to do outside of it, and Zach had classes during the day, homework at night, and also swim practice, and sometimes would travel for meets. It was a lot harder just because there was less built-in time. But even then, I think we would try to be intentional about like eating meals together or going on date nights, usually out to a new restaurant, just to make sure that like we weren't missing each other while trying to be in a relationship. How has your relationship with YouTube changed since you started making videos? So I mentioned already how when I started making videos, it was a lot because I was searching for things that I couldn't necessarily find on YouTube, and so I wanted to be that for other people who were searching it. So I think in the beginning, I thought it would be really cool to make videos, but I also think I always like in the back of my head was like, and I'll blow up. Like, and I'll get so many subscribers and I'll get so many views. And while that would still be amazing, thank you for subscribing, thank you for viewing, thank you for hyping this video, would love to blow up. I almost feel like my relationship has changed and that now YouTube's just routine. Like I was thinking, I feel like it was a few months ago at this point, what my why was for YouTube, and I like wasn't able to put good words to it. I kept just thinking like, it's just something I do. Like it's just what I do. I just make videos and I put them out there and I get to talk to people who watch the videos, and per the comments, sometimes I can be helpful and that's really fun. But I also think I've just like fallen in love with the creativity sometimes of making videos. The process of like editing and video editing like is fun for me. And then I feel like I get to like make products that I'm excited to share with people that they can see. So I don't really know like what my why is necessarily like in words again, other than just like I enjoy it and it's something I do, and so I'm gonna keep doing it. I feel like by getting to witness other people's lives, it like builds a sense of community, just in the fact like you're letting me hang out with you right now and like keep you company, and I appreciate that. And I hope that this video can bring like entertainment or maybe little bits of wisdom or inspiration, or just make you feel related to, or make you feel like, oh, that's something I go through too, I'm not alone in that. Or even just like vlogs where you see bits of my life and it's like, oh, this feels realistic and similar to my life in these ways. Or if there's ways that whenever I watch people and I see their lives and I'm like, that aspect of their life is something that I'd love to do, or I'd love my life to look like, in a healthy way, not in a bad way, but like that's where I feel like YouTube's just fun in that way. And so I feel like because I like those things, that's why I make videos now. So it's like almost less purposeful now, but not like in a bad way, I don't think. It's just like more part of me now and a part of just like what I do in my life. Forgive me, I had to change my camera battery. Where would be your dream place to live if you could live anywhere? I am really bad at this game because I think that I could make myself enjoy living anywhere. Zach and I were talking about this recently because, like I said, it is possible in a few years that his future career opportunities would have us move. And while we don't know where that is, there are like several hubs that would be a possibility that we would end up in. And okay, I guess I'm bad at this game in both ways. Part of me feels like, doesn't make a difference to me. I could live anywhere. Part of me also feels like, I really like where we are now. And so it's like, I can picture myself living in Atlanta because I do that and I enjoy that. I guess there's no harm in telling you. So like, these are not necessarily the places where we're like picking between of moving, because it just totally depends on a job, and he could get a job that's not within like a hub. But ones that we were talking about in the recent weeks were San Francisco, Boston, and Raleigh are all options, I suppose. Zach feels like he'd really like Boston. I'm so sorry. If anyone's from there, tell me the good things about it. I think I have some like preconceived notion about Boston, and I think my preconceived notion, I would hate anybody that says anything bad about anywhere that I live and love. And I've never been to Boston. Let me preface this by saying this too. In my head, it is prestigious trust fund people. I'm sorry. And I know that that's not true, but like for some reason, I just cannot picture myself living in Boston because I can't picture myself vibing there. But I think I need to like actually visit before I were to make a judgment call, because how can I be making judgment calls about places I've never been? And I was gonna say that I don't know anybody living there. I do know people that live in Boston that have like moved to Boston, and I like those people, so it must be fine. I do think an issue that I foresee with Boston would be that I would love to live like in a neighborhood type feeling, or like in a home eventually, or like a townhome, something like that. I think once we get to a place that we could afford in Boston, like once starting in the city, once we get to a place that we could afford in Boston, we then are far enough away that Zach would hate the commute. I'd probably hate the commute too if I was there as well, like having to commute in or something like that. Like Boston, I just hear about it being so expensive. Again, I've never been. I feel like it's almost like too big city for me. So between Atlanta and Boston, Atlanta would be my pick. Then we have San Francisco. I loved visiting San Francisco when we went there last March. It was such a great place to visit. We had such a good time. I loved seeing everything. We walked so much. We saw so many like sights. I can't picture myself living there, but I also think that like when we visited, we weren't in places where we would be living in the future if we were ever to move to San Francisco. I think California is a lovely place. I love Gavin Newsom. I don't picture myself as a California person, but that could change. I could be a California person. And I really think San Francisco is an amazing city. I just can't picture living there. Like there's a block. I can't picture living there. So between San Francisco and Atlanta, I would pick Atlanta. Lastly, Raleigh. I don't think I've been to. I do have family that would be right close to that though. And I feel like that's a good mix where it's like not a huge city, but it's still not like a small town, obviously. Mid-size. I like the South. Family close by, already said that. However, between Raleigh and Atlanta, initially I would say Atlanta too. I really struggle to picture myself living anywhere but here. You know what, actually, I just talked for a long time. If you could live anywhere, where would be your dream place to live if you could live anywhere? Spain. Why did I not start there? Because it's not realistic. Dream place, drop the realism. Spain. I would live in Spain. I would live in Malaga, Spain. I could have saved myself a whole lot of breath. Where do you hope to find yourself in 10 to 15 years, professionally and personally? In 10 years, I will be 36. In 15 years, I will be 41. I have no idea. Period. I have no idea. Professionally, I hope to be making good money, wherever that may be. I could honestly see myself in the same role, in the same position, I think, 10 years from now. I don't know about 15. I don't know what'll change between 36 and 41, but personally, I feel like at that point, I'd love to be in a house, like a detached home with a yard. That's what I would like personally. Wherever that is, whatever my job is, whoever I'm with, family is bigger than me and Zach. Great, so be it. I think I'd like to have a yard. I plan to be just as fun, just as youthful as I am now. 15 years is really hard to think about. I've always struggled even with 5-year plans just because I'm like, I don't know, wherever the wind takes me, there I shall be. But in short, professionally, making good money, personally, having a yard. How do you deal with aspects of your job that frustrate you but are out of your control? Let me look it up so I can get it word for word. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference part means not wasting too many brain cells on not liking the things that are outside of my control if they are truly outside of my control, and working then on acceptance, making change where change can be made, advocating for change where change can be made. Things that are truly outside of my control, try not to let them ruin my mood. And if things that are outside of your control that you don't like ever become too big, then that's when you would need to weigh, is this a price I'm willing to pay? Do I need to look for a better situation that might fit me better somewhere else? I think what's nice in my current job too in medical social work is that so many many scenarios and situations are just so unique that I learn from each time, so then like I enter the next one better. But if there's like some sort of situation going on that frustrates me or that I'm not loving, I always think through the fact of like, this is temporary, this is a season, this will be over, everything will end at some point. And also me going through those situations makes me better equipped for any time something similar to it comes up in the future. So I always think too, whenever I'm going through a situation that's frustrating, I think any time in the future is going to be better than this. Even if that's not true, that's none of my business at the time, because that's not encouraging and helpful. I just think next time anything close to this happens, something will be better. I will be better. The situation will be easier. I don't know. That kind of helps me. Like I said, even if it's not true, even if a situation then is worse, none of my business at the time I'm thinking it. I was wondering if a BSW is strictly a 4-year program. I see some being 2 years and it confuses me. How many years of education did it take you to get where you are now? I think whenever BSWs are listed as 2-year programs, that usually is like the professional program part of it. And so being a 4-year program would usually be like 2 years of prereqs general education and then 2 years where you're like strictly taking social work classes with maybe like a few electives and you're like in the BSW program. So usually that would be junior and senior year. So that might be where the discrepancy is between 2 years and 4 years, because getting a bachelor's of social work, a bachelor's is like a 4-year undergrad degree. Then how many years of education did it take you to get where you are now? So I graduated high school in 2018. In high school, I took a lot of AP classes, which I tell you because it's relevant to my college life. I entered college with 40 credit hours from AP classes, which is a lot. And it significantly reduced the amount of general education I had to take because a lot of requirements were fulfilled by my AP classes, which was amazing. With that, and also the fact that I took summer education. So graduated high school, May 2018, entered University of Alabama as a freshman, August 2018. That school year finished May 2019. That summer is when I studied abroad, and I got, I think it was 12 or 15 credit hours over the summer through studying abroad, all in Spanish, which was one of my minors, and so it all contributed to my minor. But that was a full course load that I got. It was a great summer. Loved studying abroad, but it was school, and it was school for a full day every single day of the week. So I got credit hours that way through summer, and then sophomore year started fall 2019, ended spring 2020. I took 17 credit hours the summer of 2020. I would not necessarily recommend that in general because that was a lot of work. That was wild. 17 credit hours is upper end for a semester, but then a summer semester is shorter, so you're fitting all of that work into a more condensed time frame. It was a mess. It was a lot of work, but it was summer 2020, so I wasn't doing anything else, and that's why I did that, was because I wanted to make use of time that felt fake in every other sense of time. And I was able to finish quite a few, I'd entered the professional program by that time. I think I did sophomore year. So I was able to take social work classes for my BSW. I was able to take human development classes for my second minor, which was human development and family studies. One was Spanish, one was human development and family studies. I wrapped most things up then. And then fall 2020 was my field placement semester for my bachelor's that I also took, I think maybe 2 classes in a seminar at the same time as. And then in spring 2021, that was my last semester. And I didn't have that many requirements left. I think I'd finished my social work requirements, if I remember correctly, and just had like electives that I needed to take. And so by doing that, I finished my undergrad in 3 years. It was a 4-year program, but on the calendar, on the clock, I finished it in 3 years. And then because I got my bachelor's of social work, my master's was 1 year because I could do advanced standing. So I entered my master's fall 2021 and graduated with it spring 2022, which is when then people my age were graduating undergrad. So in my head, my master's was just my senior year because of how all that worked out. But that's why, like, sometimes people ask me, since I did enter the field young, even LCSW, like I became an LCSW pretty young, and that's how, like, I got a head start that way. I graduated with my master's at 22 because of that, the deck of cards I was given. And so I was working as a full-time professional, technically part-time actually, at age 22, which pros and cons, obviously, like, pro, now I'm 26 and have 4 years of experience. Con, I was busy working really hard and I feel like kind of skipped over some like early 20s carefreeness because of that. Matured quickly, I guess you could say. Did you always want to do medical social work? No, I actually never wanted to do medical social work. I thought that hospitals seemed really bland and boring, and I'm not even making, like, I think I've said that on this YouTube channel. My BSW field placement originally was actually at a hospital, which I wasn't really looking forward to, but was like, okay, it'll be a good experience at least. But that was fall 2020 is when I was going to do it, and a week before I was supposed to start, I got an email saying we're not taking students because COVID, which was so fair, but also, like, I feel like they would have known that prior to a week before I was supposed to be beginning. And so that's how I last second got placed in a school, elementary school, which was amazing and an amazing experience and amazing supervisor and was exactly where I needed to be. But part of me also was like, phew, didn't get a hospital. And then even when I was looking for a new job after wanting to leave the Department of Juvenile Justice, I mostly wanted to get hospital experience on my resume so then I could do travel social work. Now I'm not really interested in travel social work as much. Would love to get paid for that, but I'm a homebody and I like stability. But I still wasn't even like interested in it. Like I thought, okay, sure, if I have to, then I'll work at a hospital. And it really became, I went to a job fair for my current job, and while there and talking to my manager, felt like this would be a really cool job. And then now that I'm here, I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually like really good for me. But I did not have an open mind to the hospital. Let's do 3 more questions. I've been talking for a long time. In your recent weight loss journey, how did you stay consistent and at the same time not be too hard on yourself? I think there comes a point where sticking to things that are working towards achieving your goals, the feeling of being successful in that is so good that it becomes less hard to do those things. The first month to 6 weeks of my weight loss journey was really hard, and I kind of had to just accept the fact that I was going to be doing all of the right things and not yet seeing results since I had just started. And that's usually whenever people give up on that journey at that time, is because 6 weeks is a long time to be doing like everything correctly and not be getting the results that you want yet. But trusting the process, as soon as I started like seeing results and seeing that I was getting stronger and seeing that I was losing body fat that I was wanting to, that feeling became so good, and I felt so proud of myself and like confident in myself by doing the thing that I was setting out to do, that it kind of just snowballed into like I wanted to do more of that, and I wanted to be more consistent, and I wanted to be better in like a healthy way, like not a weird way, but just in a like, this is a great feeling because I said I was going to do something and I'm doing it. And so it became easier, and it wasn't as much of a fight as it was in the beginning. And eventually with like healthy habits and like changing your eating habits and things like that, it just becomes a new normal to where now I'm like maintaining. I'm not still losing, but I'm maintaining, and it's not that hard because it's just like what I do now. So it's just like the habits, like it literally is habitual. Like what I eat in a day is like just what I gravitate towards now because it's just like what I eat in a day. And so in the beginning, I think accepting the fact that you could do all the right things and not yet be seeing the results, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming. It just means that it takes a second to get the ball rolling. And then also just making sure to soak in how proud of yourself you feel whenever you do good. And I think with that, then feeling more of that good feeling and not spending time focusing on if you weren't perfect for one day, like that's fine because your arrow is pointed in the right direction. And it feels so good to have your arrow be pointed in the direction that you want to be going that you can just like chase that feeling. That was a mindset switch for me that really helped and worked. Do you have student loans? No, I did not have student loans. I went to the University of Alabama because I got a full ride scholarship there for being a National Merit Scholar, which was incredible, and I'm so grateful for that. And that's also how I wanted to maximize that and did all of those summer classes and everything like that. Grad school, I did not have a scholarship for, but there was some money that was set aside for me by family members for college that was enough to cover grad school, the 1 year of grad school. If I did more schooling than that, I likely would have had to take out loans, but it ended up being just like the very perfect amount where I was able to get a scholarship to cover the majority, the largest cost, which was undergrad, and then the 1 year of grad school tuition was paid. So I did not have student loans, which I'm very grateful for now. I did work all through college. I've always had a job since I was 16. I worked all through college. I worked through grad school. I worked after grad school. Oh, lastly, we'll end on a fun one or an easy one. Less discussion. Did you hyphenate your last name? No, I just took Zach's last name. We kind of joked for a while because my maiden name is Scholl and his last name is Lorson. And so for a while I was saying that I would just become Schlorson. I did not do that. Let me not talk your ear off more. Thanks for being here for these minutes. I hope that this Q&A could help you get to know me a little bit more. All 15,000 of you. If you haven't heard me say it recently, I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful for any video that you watch or any minute that you spend with me. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you next time.